You look at BYD, you look at NIO and others, that comes to the U.S. That's a major competitive issue, especially when it comes to Detroit.
They have currently 4 times as many pieces of equipment as the next nearest charging providers. They're dominating.
I think this move to own it for robo-taxis and AI is going to, fade over time. So 150 billion market cap at $50 seems like a reasonable valuation.
All that and more. So let's get to it. At the closing bell, Tesla closed down about 2%. A little further in the after hours, currently sitting at 167.50. Just in the past week, Tesla fell about 9%. For the month, down a little over 1.5%. Talk about volatility. And year to date, a little over 5 months in, Tesla is still down over 30%. If you thought the ride was bumpy before, you haven't seen anything yet.
If the barriers go up, if the wall gets a little bit higher for Chinese players, do the Chinese do the same thing to US players?
That's the worry, right? I mean, the retaliatory is the last thing that you need from a Tesla perspective. And I think this is something everyone's been waiting for, because the reality is, given the prices of the Chinese EVs and what I've seen firsthand, it will be very tough from a competition perspective. Retaliatory definitely could happen. This Game of Thrones continues to play out.
Elon Musk and Tesla's relationship with China seems to be of a very special nature. The United States tariffs on foreign-made vehicles? Is it possible Tesla could receive some backlash for this? I suppose it's possible, but I would put it in the category of unlikely. As for Model S, Model X imports, however, that could be something of a totally different nature, but that is such a small portion of what's going on here. If there's any blowback, I believe the impact will be next to nil regarding Tesla.
Mention a product. Can we talk about that a little bit more? I don't think enough is said about that. I think a lot of people often consider Chinese products to be cheap imitations of maybe US innovation. Are you seeing that out of China? How good is the product?
I mean, BYD is special. I mean, and I think I think from a competition perspective, Tesla's seen that in China. I still view it as there's going to be many winners there. But when you look at BYD, you look at NIO and others, that comes to the US. That's a major competitive issue, especially when it comes to Detroit. The 313 area, has bet so much on EVs, so that you're really protecting that for Detroit as well as ultimately even for Tesla domestically.
All that, it's protecting the 313 area code. Tesla will be just fine. They're not even operating in that cheaper segment, and they're still dominating battery electric vehicle sales. The Model Y is the best selling vehicle on the planet at the moment. I mean, just think about it for a second. The next vehicle is about half the cost of the Model Y. These tariffs aren't with Tesla in mind. They're designed to protect US legacy auto manufacturers in hopes that they can catch up and build products, because if unchecked, BYD and others will run ramshot over the 313 area code.
BYD gave an interview to the FT yesterday where they basically said by 2030, we're going to be the biggest EV car maker in Europe. No one else is going to be able to hold a candle to us. Is Europe next? Is that the next risk for the Chinese EV sector?
Yeah, Europe's front and center. I think that's going to be the battleground. And look, and that's something not just for Tesla, for a lot of the German automakers and others, and Beijing has their sights there.
You want to know how it's going to play out here in the United States? Take a look at Europe. Again, this is of no concern to Tesla. They're already selling battery electric vehicles in droves. It's the European legacy auto manufacturers with their back against the wall, forced to compete with cheaper yet incredible battery electric vehicles from these Chinese auto manufacturers. Times, they are a-changing. You either change with them, or you get lost in the annals of time.
Even though EVs is moderated globally, and of course that's been a black eye for the industry, it's still the massive transformation, probably the biggest one we've seen since 1950s, and that really, I think Europe's going to be the next battleground.
I would say that black eye for the industry, it hit Tesla really hard, and their saving grace was that they went to China, that Musk met with Xi, and he got these measures that seem to indicate autopilot can exist in China. So if that's taken away, what happens to Tesla? What happens to share prices and our confidence in them?
Look, and that's why Musk, 10% politician, 90% CEO. We see the same thing with Cook. China is the hearts and lungs of the Tesla growth story. When I look at FSD autonomous, I think the first step now toward what could be, I think ultimately a golden vision now from an autonomous perspective. But China is the hearts and lungs of the growth story, and that's well known. It's been a headwind, but we do believe that you'll start to see a tailwind in the next coming quarters.
So many vehicle choices in China. So many. When you speak about luxury, quality, Tesla received top marks in China, continuing to drive down costs and in turn prices. Tesla's offerings to the Chinese consumer will become more and more attractive. But adding on to this FSD, sure, there's tons of driver auto assist, but more and more individuals are starting to realize there might be something to this FSD that Tesla has to offer. Not to mention the robust Supercharger network. I mean, people have access to it. Oh, wait, that's gone. Right? I mean, the Supercharger network, that's gone.
This is fascinating because they're talking about this Supercharger network, but then they just let go of the guy who was running the Supercharger business.
They did, and so yeah, we just saw that. I mean, the woman that was running its business, I believe, is Rebecca. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, but yes, she.
Boy, they're up at a high rate of speed over there, aren't they? It's Tanucci, Rebecca Tanucci. Farewell, Caesar Beam.
She has been let go. Tesla did announce these plans, or Elon Musk specifically announced these plans via X on yesterday, I believe, saying that they're going to invest about $500 million in expanding their Supercharger network this year. Yeah, coming on the wake of the fact that while they're still expecting the Supercharger network to grow, it's going to be at a slower pace, and the department of their head is also kind of an interesting time in this situation. Although $500 million is no small amount. And hey, Elon Musk did say that they're not going to count their overall, this is just on sites and expansions, not counting operating costs, which are going to be much higher.
All right, in the news, when the Supercharger team was fired, all hell broke loose in the news media. Overreactions when it comes to the intended demand of battery electric vehicles, more importantly Teslas. Enough with that. This is the most robust supercharging network on the planet. Less growth for Tesla is still 10 times more growth than everybody else doing it. To question Tesla's commitment to the infrastructure of their primary business as of right now was laughable then and is quite laughable now.
Like, hey, what is the next catalyst? What's the next reason to get people excited again? It hasn't been the case. And I know I was arguing yesterday that the layoffs, I think, are a bit like overblown in the way that it's portrayed by these headlines. But it's not exactly good sentiment. I mean, even I can admit that, of course, when you lay off 14,000 employees, that is not good sentiment for a company. And I think that you see more and more of these posts on LinkedIn, and it's like, oof, it just doesn't paint a good PR picture for them.
Yeah, $500 million, especially at a time where companies have been really harshly judged for their spending. And there's been a little bit of a glut for EVs, partly because of some of the charging infrastructure. I feel like you could take either way, either side of this. You could go, all right, you need to build out the infrastructure. It's worth every penny to spend because that's what will get more people buying EVs. But at the same time, if the market's been very stringent about what companies are spending, it might be a short-term kind of hit to the stock.
I know that the bullish narrative has been so much focused around like the robo-taxis, FSD, autonomy was mentioned like 1,000 times. I actually think that they're charging the overall infrastructure is a little bit more interesting, at least near term.
Well, I think big term too.
Yeah.
Right?
What? Nothing is more important than autonomy, a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity.
Now, Tesla, of course, is known for building out this North American charging standard. I think it's interesting. Installations are up about 19% this year through at least the end of March. But this is 4 times as many. They have currently 4 times as many pieces of equipment as the next nearest charging providers. They're dominating. And we don't even talk about that part of their business that's going to ramp up in the end of this year into 25.
You're damn right. 4 times the amount of equipment as the next supercharging provider. Damn, that's a lot more equipment. But I suppose all that goes away when you lay off the entire supercharging team, right?
Tesla's charge continuing to get drained, down 1.5% for a third straight day in the red. Quartz reporting the company has removed 3,400 job listings from its site recently. Only 3 positions are currently posted. The stock is down 6% already this month. And Danny here is sticking with his short call on the stock after calling for it to head to $50. here on our show last November. So how do you feel about it now?
For someone who cares so much about the human race, he is firing a lot of humans at this moment, and everything's kind of falling apart in their core business.
You're right, Danny. I'm sure he should hire everyone on the planet to make sure every human has a job. I'm sure that'll transition the world to a sustainable energy economy real quick.
So what's he doing? He's pointing everybody to robo-taxis and AI and autonomy and all that. At the same time, the DOJ is now, Reuters is reporting, is investigating this for wire fraud, et cetera, because he's been selling a product that doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist? Danny, maybe you should check out my playlist of my FSD journey. Not only does the software exist, but it does most of my driving while I'm in the car. Granted, it's not perfect, but it does exist.
So we have August 8th is this unveiling of Robotaxi Day, and before that, it's going to be the vote. Shareholders are probably going to grant him $56 billion in options, obviously, here. A big news event that I don't think got enough play was an investment into a company called WAYVE, which has been around now for 7 years, by SoftBank, by NVIDIA, and a follow-on by Microsoft, Bill Gates personally, et cetera. $1 billion just got injected. This company is now in the process. They are using autonomy right now for driving in cities. And so I don't think people paid attention to that enough. I'm invested in a venture capital fund Compound that actually has an investment. They were there early 7 years ago, so just for full disclosure.
Oh, you do you? No disclosure needed, at least not for me. I'm familiar with WAYVE, pioneering the end-to-end AI driving models. Sure you are. They use cameras, neural nets, but they also use radar and LiDAR. Many of Tesla's major critics don't believe that this can be achieved without some form of radar and LiDAR. So yeah, it would appear Tesla has a competitor in the FSD space. But there's just one more tiny itsy bitsy detail from WAYVE to Tesla. Tesla is accumulating data from millions of vehicles all over the country, collecting valuable proprietary data, essential for making those corner cases of difficulty evaporate. When your primary focus is AI, data is king, and nobody has more data than Tesla.
So I've been up on the story for a long time. I think people really need to see, and I think the more time that goes by here, and their core business is coming under pressure, I think this move to own it for robo-taxis and AI is going to, fade over time. So 150 billion market cap at $50 seems like a reasonable valuation to me.
You're still short, and you're looking
short.
forward to head to
Yeah,
50.
Yeah, staying short.
We'll see how that pans out now, won't we? In conclusion, will China strike back at the new tariffs that are going to be levied against them for battery electric vehicles? Will Tesla be in their crosshairs? I doubt it. But I suppose anything is possible. Regardless of the potential outcome, Tesla has to continue to move forward, creating the best products that they possibly can, remaining flexible in any environment so that they can achieve the mission. Transition the world to a sustainable energy economy. Speaking of which, the Supercharger network for Tesla did die. Forget about the nonsense that they plan to inject about $500 million into the Supercharger network expansion alone, to mention the money they have to spend for the upkeep of the chargers that they currently have. I'm sure Tesla's plan was to let the Supercharger stations erode over time, considering EV demand has dried up and everybody's going to switch back to internal combustion engines. That's not going to happen? Oh. And according to Danny Moses, we got Tesla at $50 per share. Me personally, I would be ecstatic to purchase Tesla shares at $50 per share. In fact, I may pack all this shit, liquefy all my assets, move to a third world country, but beforehand, dump all the proceeds to my liquefied assets into TSLA. $50 per share? Oh, that would be a gift from the heavens. In the meantime, I will continue to purchase Tesla stock with the meager spare funds that I currently possess. Given Tesla's volatility, however, if you do decide to short Tesla, you do so at your own risk. It'll be interesting to see if TSLA will ever hit $50, but more importantly, where will it be in 2030? I look forward to checking back in on these videos 5 years from now. That's all I've got for you today. Be easy. Peace.